This drone has one goal: to fly longer than any electric drone has ever flown before. Breaking an official Guinness World Record is never easy, and this drone is no exception. Earlier this year, I built version 1, which unofficially broke the record by 20 minutes. This time around, I'm upgrading everything to try and smash Sci-Fly's old record and make it Guinness World Records official. And this is what happened. These two guys commented on my previous video and gave a really good idea for the motor mounts. They suggested that instead of having two halves of the motor mount, which are clamped on both sides, I should actually use a C-style clamp, which has only one set of bolts and the whole thing is just one piece. So I did a quick redesign of my motor mounts and got them ready to print on my newest printer, the Bamboo Lab H2C right here. This thing has the coolest nozzle changing mechanism I've ever seen on a 3D printer, which I will show you later. But before we do some printing, I want to do a little upgrade. I know this is a little bit extra, but I decided to replace the AMS2 Pro on top with 4 AMS HT. And this is so cool because each of these is drying their respective filaments at their perfect drying temperature. With the PETG, we've got 66 degrees, so we've got 80, 75, all the way up to 85 degrees Celsius, which is perfect for PS6CF because this stuff has to be really dry when you print with it. I did the motor mounts on the H2D and I did the central hub on the H2C just to make sure they're all finished by this morning. That support filament just works so well to make these easy to remove. Perfect. I've just put the new battery mount on the battery and it fits so well, which is amazing for a first try because that never happens. And of course we've got the little arm at the front and the back here. So that's gonna stop the battery from sliding up and down like it did on the last drone. This is the new motor mount design, and as you can see it's open at the bottom there. So all we do is squeeze this over the end of the carbon fiber tube arm, and then we put the bolts through the bottom, and when we close them it'll clamp it really nice and tight against the arm so they can't rotate at all. Next, I had to entirely disassemble the old drone and install all the motors and electronics on the new drone with the new 3D printed parts. This time around, I made sure to use a continuous 1.8 meter pipe per arm because last time I had to join two separate pieces in the middle and it just caused havoc. I also compared the weights of the old and the new motor mounts, and the new ones weighed about 6.5 grams lighter, so I got a total saving of about 26 grams. This time around, I spent a lot of time making sure that the props were perfectly parallel with the arms, just because on version 1 they were slightly off center, which actually caused quite an imbalance in the RPM across the motors. I have gotten the seal of approval from Remy, so he says that the drone is ready for flying. So I am going to take it out on its first test flight today. And I'm really excited to see how this performs because there are actually a bunch of new upgrades with this drone compared to the version 1. The propellers are all installed, so it's almost ready for flying. But before I do that, I have to do the drone dance. And in case you didn't know, it's really important to do the drone dance before you fly the drone for the first time. Otherwise, the drone guards will curse you and your drone will crash. When doing the drone dance, it's very important to have perfect form and feeling, otherwise it won't work and it'll likely fail and you'll just have to redo the dance over and over again. So it's best to do it correctly the first time. But then unfortunately the police showed up. Luckily I managed to convince them that I'm not a terrorist and I'm just a harmless YouTuber, and turns out they actually quite like drones. I even managed to convince them to help me with the startup of the drone, so it turned out to be very helpful that they were there. Unfortunately, I kept on having issues and the props kept on digging into the ground, so I realized that I might need some temporary landing gear. That's super disappointing, but I am feeling like a bit of an idiot right now because didn't I have the exact same problem on version 1? You'd think I would have learned by now. I had a bunch of the legs on my version 1 drone break, so I've come up with this cool idea where I have a TPU joint embedded in the leg itself. So on the Bamboo H2C, one of the nozzles is using nylon and the other one is using TPU. And the printer will interlock these two different filaments while printing to make one continuous print. The legs are finished printing and I think these are definitely going to work. As you can see when I put pressure on them, That little TPU joint in the middle there just absorbs all of the impact. So if the drone does crash, these legs are definitely not going to snap off. So now it's time to attach these to the arms of the drone and take it up for its official first test flight. I was really looking forward to a successful first flight for this drone, but apparently it had other ideas. Yeah, don't even ask. So it turns out ArduPilot inverts the pitch axis of the controller by default. So after figuring that out, the drone did have a successful first flight. This is the first try with GPS hold, and it's actually only got 11 satellites, as you can see there, and it's doing pretty well. I mean, literally the first try, so I'm pretty impressed with that. This drone was actually very easy to get tuned, and probably within about 20 minutes, it was already flying very solid. This is also my first time flying with the TX16S Mark III from Radiomaster, and I'm a big fan. Those of you who are super observant would have noticed that I've actually switched over to a new battery from my version 1 drone. So for that one, I used these batteries from Tattoo, which are a semi-solid state NMC type battery. And these were already impressive at around 320 watt hours per kilogram when all packaged together. But I've now switched over to these batteries from SMC, which come in at an even crazier 380 watt hours per kilogram when all packaged together. So these are essentially gonna give me a lot longer flight time. And each one of these comes in at 87,000 milliamp hours. So obviously with this setup, I'm gonna fly with one of these at a time, which weighs about 5 kilograms, whereas previously I ran with these two in parallel. The SMC battery is heavier, however, because of the higher energy density, the optimal weight is actually around 5 kilograms. I've come out to the farm to test the drone with basically unlimited space. So today I have the dual GPS setup ready, and I'm just gonna try get some autonomous flying done. So I wanna program the route onto the drone and then get it to fly around in circles and make sure that's all working properly. The drone is so stable now. It's almost on DJI level of position hold, so I am very happy with that. Even though it was working really well in GPS hold, when trying to do the autonomous flying, the drone was just not flying properly. It was starting and stopping, getting so many errors all the time. And when I checked the logs later, I realized that the vibrations, also known as vibes, were way too high, and they were essentially clipping out the IMU on the flight controller. I thought that the props might be slightly off center from the motor, which would cause excessive vibrations. So I 3D printed these little locators out of nylon and installed those in the props to see if that could fix the issue. I did a couple test flights and then checked out the logs after flying, but those vibrations from the 40-inch props are just too hectic for the IMU. But fortunately, the guys at Flying Robot in Cape Town, along with QPilot, have gotten me this flight controller very quickly. This is the Cube Orange Plus, and it's pretty much a top-of-the-range flight controller. And what's special about it is inside here is a very well-dampened, isolated set of IMUs. I hadn't initially planned on this setup, but luckily I was able to quickly design and 3D print some mounts for them out of TPU, which actually turned out to work very nicely. I've also added in this little spar at the front to keep the arms more rigid and hopefully have less vibrations overall. Back to the farm for some more test flying, and I'm very happy to report that the new flight controller removed all the vibration and clipping issues we were having. And on top of that, the GPS was getting 31 satellites almost immediately, which is very impressive. I really wanted to test out the efficiency of the drone at different speeds, but unfortunately we just ran out of time. But luckily we did get this incredible sunset. Later that week, the weather was perfect again, and this time around I really wanted to figure out exactly what speed is the most efficient for this drone to fly at. This is also when I figured out that I can connect my laptop to my Radiomaster Wi-Fi and actually change all the settings on the drone from the laptop mid-flight, which is super helpful. So I essentially just programmed an autonomous route for the drone to fly, and every time it came around I changed the speed of the drone, and from that I was able to analyze at what speed the drone uses the least amount of power. While we were testing this, some low-level clouds started rolling in, so I had to take up the other drone to get some shots of the endurance drone, and they are epic. From these flights, I was able to isolate each loop in the logs to see exactly how much power the drone was using at each speed, and from that data, I was able to create this graph. The optimal speed was surprisingly low, sitting at around 5.5 meters per second or 12 miles per hour. Luckily, as you can see here, we do actually use quite a lot less power, moving at a nice forward slow speed compared to the drone just in hover. With this information, I had everything I needed to go for the official world record attempt. So I found some independent witnesses and waited till the following weekend when the weather was looking perfect. The first few flights were actually pretty awful because the drone was really unstable and pulling way too much power. Fortunately though, I was able to fix this very quickly by adjusting the notch filter settings. But it's crazy to think that just one single number in ArduPilot can take the drone from being perfectly flyable to completely unstable. I knew how to fix this because on the latest testing day, while the drone was mid-flight, I actually changed the settings and it had a bit of a crash landing. Now that everything was working and all the independent witnesses had arrived, I loaded up a fresh battery and the drone was on its way. It's been flying for 45 minutes now and the weather is absolutely perfect. There's literally no wind. Couldn't have asked for a better day. So I think it's all looking good. Nothing's overheating. Battery usage looks good. Still not sure exactly how long it'll fly for, but time will tell. Just a big thank you to Andries for letting us use his farm. This place is absolutely beautiful and a perfect spot to test out drones and break new records. This is the first time I'm using an external static antenna, and that connects to the Here For base unit, which goes into the laptop, and this gets you RTK, which is essentially centimeter level positioning accuracy. Because I know people are going to ask, I am still using the same motors and props that I did for version 1. So the propellers are the G40 props by T-Motor, and the motors are the MN1005 90 kV, also from T-Motor. The cows have come to check out what's going on, and they are quite cute, but I'm a little concerned they might knock over the antenna. Luckily they did behave themselves and they were just a bit confused as to what was going on. It was at this point that I noticed something really strange. It seemed like the drone was using more power in the straights compared to the turns. And as you can see here, for the straight section, the drone was averaging about 500 watts, but for the turn, it was averaging about 450 watts, which was really surprising. Initially, I had the autonomous flying do a long racetrack style, but I actually adjusted that about a third of the way through to follow this shorter track, which had more turns and actually increased the overall efficiency of the drone. I just wanted to say a big thank you to Bamboo Lab because in addition to making incredible printers, without their sponsorship and support, these projects just would not be possible. If you are looking to pick up a printer from them, I will have links down below with my favorite products from them, as well as a nice discount applied. On top of that, Bamboo Lab has their Let's Make It Fund, which brings awesome ideas like this one to life. So if you have something in mind, follow the link down below and submit your idea. We're just over 2 hours now and the drone is still going strong. It has gotten quite a lot hotter now, but luckily there is still no wind, as you can probably see in the trees over there. So it's all looking good and now we just need to wait it out. At the 2 hours and 25 minute mark, we still had 45% remaining, which was looking pretty good because I really wanted this drone to fly for over 4 hours on the single battery. Almost 2 hours and 45 minutes. That is crazy for a drone to fly that long. If you have any ideas of how I can improve this drone even further, or any cool projects or things you'd like me to try out, then please let me know in the comments down below because I really enjoy seeing what you guys come up with. And we've just gone over 3 hours and 12 minutes, so we have an official new record. And anything over this is just gonna add to that record. So now is the fun part where we don't have to stress as much. We could just see how long this thing's gonna fly for. While the old official record was 3 hours and 12 minutes, my previous drone actually flew 3 hours and 31 minutes. So for me, that was the number to beat and see how much further I could go over that. And I was so stoked at the 4-hour mark. We still had about 8% remaining, so we had a little bit further to fly for. At this point, I was a bit concerned that the drone would run out of power mid-loop, so I decided to just hover it in front of the landing area and wait till it gets completely flat before bringing it to the ground. What blew my mind a little is that I was able to pull over 100% capacity from the battery, and I think it's because I was only using about a 0.2 C rate, which is extremely low. But I'm very happy to say the drone flew for 4 hours, 21 minutes and 39 seconds, which is now a new official Guinness World Record. I'm extremely happy with this result, but I think the drone can go even longer, so you're just gonna have to subscribe to see what happens next.